Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. From 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. Welcome to the Age of Fission radio show. My name is Jerome, and I am the Sane Environmentalist. It is Wednesday, the 4th of April, 2018. I am in Eugene, Oregon. Temperatures are pleasant. Skies are cloudy as normal. We have, however, been getting a few sunny days lately, so that's kind of a nice thing. Personally, I don't mind the clouds. I think clouds are nice, but I'm one of these Nordic, red-headed, light-skinned people that doesn't mind clouds. So, yeah, I had a pretty big cloud blow over my horizon last night. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Castle Bravo. Castle Bravo is a nuclear test conducted by the United States government on the Bikini Atoll, Marshall Islands, on March 1st, 1954. The device is the most powerful nuclear device detonated by the United States, and its first lithium deuteride-fueled thermonuclear weapon. Castle Bravo's yield was 15 megatons. That's 15 million tons of TNT, 2.5 times the predicted 6 megaton yield due to unforeseen additional reactions involving lithium-7, which led to unexpected radioactive contamination of the areas east of the Bikini Atoll. The fallout from the detonation fell on residents of Rangalop and its Utterick atolls and spread around the world. The islanders were not evacuated until 3 days later and suffered horrible radiation sickness. 23 crew members of a Japanese fishing vessel were also contaminated by the fallout, and they experienced acute radiation syndrome. The blast incited international reaction over atmospheric thermonuclear testing. The Bravo crater is located in the atoll, and remains of the causeway are there as well. So, basically, it was a deuterium-tritium gas-boosted atomic bomb made by Los Alamos. It was very compact. It was a boosted fission device, and it was tested in the Upshot Knothole climax event and yielded 61,000 tons of TNT. out of the 50 to 70 expected. Successful enough that the planned Operation Series Domino, designed to explore the same question about the suitable primary for a thermonuclear bomb, could be canceled. The implosion system was quite lightweight because it eliminated the aluminum pusher shell around the tamper and used more compact ring lenses. So this bomb basically looked like a big drum, and it yielded a gigantic amount of energy. Like, what did they say? More than twice what they had expected? Let's see, they expected... Here, we got to go all the way up. They expected 2.5 times the predicted amount that they expected. This series of events led to the end of atmospheric testing for nuclear weapons. The poor children of these little islands around there got horribly contaminated with radioactivity. I saw a documentary yesterday. It's called Half-Life, and I guess it's a very rare thing. But I don't have a copy of it, but it is basically a documentary about the whole Castle Bravo thing, and they show the poor Bikini Islanders, the sweetest, most loving people that you could imagine, just absolutely, you see in the movies, the kids running around, everybody loves each other, everybody's happy. That's what they had going on. And they agreed to let us use their island as a test ground for our weapon. We tricked them into that because they were ignorant. They had no idea what they were really dealing with. There was a little clip at the end of this movie of a island woman who knew how to reading English and trying to comprehend and understand. And it is basically just a simple explanation of what is an atomic bomb and what is radioactivity. And her and her husband were sitting there, and they were both like, I just don't understand. This is what kind of weird magic is this? It explodes and then it makes you sick forever afterwards. It doesn't ever go away. And what is this little pieces of what? They were just completely flabbergasted. And this was in the 80s when this film was made. So this is after they'd had 20 or 30 years to understand firsthand the effects of ionizing radiation. So, once again, in the name of national security, we have, as a nation, and we are responsible for this, destroyed the culture of another people's. We destroyed it. They are now, today, the people of those same villages today are now, they can't grow food, they can't eat any of the food from the trees or the ground, they can't eat the fish. It's all radioactive. And so the United States sends food in, and basically what the United States sends in is junk, garbage food, like potted meat and Spam and white bread and white flour and white sugar and probably plenty of soy products, soy oil, soy curd, soy beans, and soy is, believe it or not, is a non-food. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Did you know that 6 out of 10 people are actually allergic to soybeans? Did you know that the Japanese used to grow soy in between rice harvests to revitalize the soil because as a legume, soy, just like green bean, adds nitrogen back to the soil. But they would throw away the soy plants. They actually thought they were poisonous because 6 out of 10 people got sick from eating them. Now they've got ways to put enzymes in them and this and that and make it so that we can digest it. But it's an anti-food, trust me. Do your research on soy. But yeah, so basically those same people are now obese, cancerous, dying of heart disease, unhappy, disappointed, and they're dark people. They aren't the light, sweet, wonderful native people that they used to be. There's them, Native American people. We destroyed their land as well with nuclear blasts, with all of our testing that we've done. And it's really sad to me that humanity has got this trick up our sleeve, because we don't have the knowledge or the wisdom to handle it. We don't have the knowledge or the wisdom, obviously, to be able to handle something as intense and powerful as the fissioning of an atom, or the fusing of an atom. That's what this the difference between a thermonuclear bomb and an atomic bomb is that the thermonuclear bomb starts with a fission core, and then the fission core squishes a layer of other elements fast enough to where they actually fuse together and become other elements. And when they do that, you get an enormous amount of energy release, magnitudes greater than just a standard fission. So you've got a fission followed by the fusion reaction in a thermonuclear bomb. And that's why one of them will, give you the equivalent of 50 or 60 million tons of dynamite, basically. Imagine how powerful a stick of dynamite is. Now, figure that weighs, let's say, a ton. Let's call that 2,000 pounds, even though I think they're talking about TONNE, which is 1,000 kilograms. But let's talk 2,000 pounds of dynamite. Each stick probably weighs about a pound, so that's 2,000 sticks of dynamite. Is 1 ton of dynamite. All right. A kiloton is 1,000 times that much. A megaton is 1,000,000 times that much. 50 megatons is 50 million times as much explosive energy. Think about that. Think about the amount of energy and how we just don't have the ability to handle that properly. Not to mention the waste products and all the pollution that is occurring from the manufacturing of said weapons. It's really an ugly situation. Which takes us back to what's the next culture we can destroy? I know, Japan. We actually have bombed them twice. They made it through that, and then we decided that the United States government and the Nuclear Regulatory Agency and some others decided that, let's put a bunch of reactors on Japan. They've got plenty of shoreline, they got lots of cooling capability, and we'll just do that. We'll just put our reactors for our fuel production, because believe me, the Japanese have been shipping spent fuel or reprocessing to the United States for years. They have had to have been. It's probably part of the deal. It's like, we'll help you build these reactors, but then you got to give us your spent fuel. Hey, we'll take it off your hands, Otherwise, there would be giant piles of spent fuel in Japan, because they damn near, I think they were getting like 70 to 80% of their domestic power from nuclear. Pretty sure that's about that much. So, that's how that happened. That is exactly, I believe. It was the Cold War, post World War II. We have a new quote unquote friend in the Pacific, And so we set them up with all the reactors they could handle. You know, all along, of course, knowing that there would be disasters and there would be meltdowns, probably. I mean, it's most likely, given the geologic location and the fault lines and stuff around there. They don't know that. They know this stuff. They take this into consideration. The United States government claims to this day that they did weather testing right up to within a few minutes of the time that they detonated this device, and that the winds were prevailing south, or I think it was south. But then, apparently, all of a sudden, according to the government, they shipped it east just as the device was going off, carrying basically it's coral. It was a white ash that fell down on these islands, and it was so thick that it looked like snow. And the children of these islands literally thought, it's snow! And they went outside and they were playing in it and rolling in it and getting it in their mouths and inhaling it. And it was literally direct nuclear fallout. Like 400 rads per cubic foot of this stuff. Like a triple, quadruple lethal dose per cubic foot. And these kids are rolling around in it and playing in it. And they all got very violently ill. This one, they did an interview with one of the island women, who was a young woman at the time and pregnant. And she said that she was going along and everything was fine, and then she gave birth early and she referred to it as a thing. She referred to it as it, not him or her, not my baby. The look on her face when she was describing it was that of a person who has seen something that was the most utterly horrible, horrifying thing you could possibly see, that a human could possibly see and not literally go insane from. She said the organs were on the outside. It wasn't even recognizable as a baby or a human or a life. It was just they called them jelly bean babies because they were just a bag of guts, basically, and goo. They just didn't have skin. If they did live, they didn't live even 24 hours. You know, and we had ships there. Okay, we literally had ships off those islands that we could have used to evacuate those islanders before the fallout got there. But the command structure decided that it was time for those ships to leave, and so they sent them off. And so the people of the island sat there, I think it was for 3 weeks, 3 days or 3 weeks. Let me see here how long it was. 3 days later, the islanders were not evacuated until 3 days later and suffered radiation sickness. Everybody got violently ill on both of those islands. All the animals got sick, and most of them died. The sand, they were showing a guy who was doing testing, like an American soldier. And he was walking around, they got off a boat with a Geiger counter, and these little island people are there, and they're so innocent and so ready to be trusting, even after what they've experienced. And these guys get out of this little skip with a couple Geiger counters, and as soon as they hit land, you hear the Geiger counter go, and they dig down in the soil like about a half an inch and pick it up, and the Geiger counter literally pegged, like deadly dose type action, just 2 inches under the sand of that atoll. And I'm sure today, if you were to dig 2 or 3 feet down into the sand of that atoll, you would find very high levels of cesium-137. So, what have we come to, world? What have we come to? I get really disgusted with it sometimes. You know, I did a YouTube video this week talking about what I call the lemming effect that humanity is undergoing right now. We are as if we were like a herd of lemmings heading for the cliff, and nobody really understands on an individual level how close to the edge of the cliff we are, or many may at the very last minute, but because of the force of the lemmings behind pushing you forward, you are stuck. You will go off the cliff with the rest of them because you're part of the crowd. So even though individually we may go, okay, this is an issue, collectively there is a push forward that is what appears to be an insurmountable wave, the momentum of a tsunami wave moving forward across our planet of destruction. You know, and not only the air, you know, and I've done a couple shows about the air, global warming, how that's a thing, but as well the nuclear pollution that we're receiving. You know, and I think the nuclear pollution is much more insidious and it's more long lasting. And it's like cesium, for instance, doesn't go away. And if you go to Fukushima, north of Fukushima on the beach where it got some of the heaviest doses of contamination after the meltdowns of the reactors, from the surface of the beach, you've got, it might be a little elevated, but not really dangerously elevated. But if you take a shovel and dig 2 feet down into the sand and stick a Geiger counter down there, all of a sudden you discover all that cesium is heavy. Cesium is heavy, and so it's settling. It's settling down, 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 down. And I guess thank God for that. Thank God that cesium doesn't want to float and stay at the surface, you know. Well, we'd have much worse problems than we do. But yeah, so it's all still there, though. You know, and I see pictures of kids on the beach in Japan digging with shovels, and it just makes my skin crawl to even think about it. It makes my skin literally crawl to think about it. You know, and the taboo, the nuclear taboo in Japan is so strong that literally you don't have a right to say, hey, this isn't safe. Hey, don't let your kid dig in that. What's wrong with you? You want me to get contaminated? You don't have the right there. You know, their taboo is so strong that merely suggesting there could be a nuclear problem is like punishable, socially punishable. It's a socially punishable offense. So, sorry about that, guys. That was Mr. Kitty decided that he wanted to be other places, so I had to open the door for him. Yeah, surprise, I don't work in a $10,000 studio. So, yeah, it's just really sad. I get sadder and sadder the more I think about it all. You know, how they're forcing now the people of Japan back. I just saw an article just yesterday. And it was from the 1st of April, 2018. And this is from sinchew.com, SINCHEW.com. I'm assuming it's a Japanese paper. And the title of the article is, In Fukushima Ghost Town, a Factory on the Road to Rebirth. Name, Japan. Name in Japan's Fukushima region, and this is literally just north of the power plant. This is an area that literally got the heaviest fallout of anywhere else in the world. Okay, if you look at the plume map, the initial plume went directly north and west right over these little towns and just totally blanketed them with cesium, strontium, plutonium even. Probably there's uranium in there. I mean, it's horribly polluted. And Japan's answer to alpha and beta radio sources is to just pave them over. You know, if you've got a layer of alpha and beta emitters, radiation-wise, you just cover them up with 4 inches of asphalt or concrete, and then the radiation can't get through that, and they're more or less encapsulated, depending on what it is. You know, if it's some of these products have half-lives of hundreds of years or 100 years or even 50. You know, it's like a cesium-137. Most of it, after 7 years, is still there. Okay? It's 1/8 of the way from being halfway gone. So most of it is still there. So the tsunami waves inundated Japan's northern coast on March 11, 2011, after a magnitude 9.0 earthquake, ripping buildings from their foundations and triggering a nuclear disaster. Name was under a government-mandated evacuation order, which was partially lifted last year, and encouraging residents to return, but this has proved an uphill struggle. The factory built by Japanese automaker Nissan in the town is employing new technology to recycle electric car batteries. For now, the factory is basic, virtually empty, and employs just 10 people. But Nissan, and by the way, folks, time to ban and don't buy Nissan products, because they are complicit in these people going back into radioactive hot zone, being forced back because of the economics. But Nissan and the government hope it might prompt other businesses to follow suit and eventually draw people back to the region. 7 years have passed. The evacuation order has been lifted, and we are working hard to bring residents back, said Reconstruction Minister Masayoshi Hoshino at a ceremony at the factory Monday. The government lifted evacuation orders on some areas, including around 20% of Name last year. The other 80% of Name is still off limits. Think about that. They've lifted the evacuation order and are encouraging people to return to a place that 80% of is still too radioactive to be in. And in February, just 516 people were registered as living in the city, compared with 21,000 before 2011. We need infrastructure, jobs, schools, Hoshino said at the factory. The government paid for 2/3 of the factory's construction costs in the hope of attracting people to the region. The government paid 2/3 of the construction costs. So probably the government went to Nissan, or what is it, Nissan? Nissan. Boycott Nissan. And they said, hey, we need you to build a factory of some sort in Nami. And Nissan went, are you kidding me? That place is, there's nobody can even live there. How can we have a factory? And they're like, well, we could clear probably 20% of it and give you a spot there. You can build the factory, you know, and that'll encourage the rebirth of beautiful Fukushima. Because Fukushima, it's time for rebirth now. That's the way the Japanese people are being taught. They're being taught that everything is fine, they're cleaned up, and there is a rebirth going on in that province of Japan. People are moving back. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, everything is normal. And that's the way they want it. The Japanese are fiercely loyal people to their culture. And, I've actually was reading in some message boards, there's Japanese people who live abroad who are being invited, let's call it, by the government to live in the Fukushima prefecture, and they're offering rewards, bonuses, and other things that enhance and entice people to want to return to these areas. And, I did a Google map. I love Google Earth, by the way. A Google Earth search of the area around Fukushima. And indeed, it's lush and green and beautiful. I would say climatically, it's very similar to eastern or western Oregon. Very similar. Same kind of temperatures, same kind of water levels and humidity levels, and it's a beautiful place. There's no doubt. And the people had beautiful homes there and great lives. I saw a picture of one of the relocation places, and it is basically, imagine a big warehouse and then take cardboard boxes and break them apart and create like 4-foot tall cubicles, and everybody's in a cubicle and little hallways in between them, a shared common bathroom and a shared common toilet. No kitchen. Nobody has a kitchen, though you probably can have a little gas burner and a wok or something, but nobody has electricity. Nobody can plug anything in. Just imagine if you were forced to live in a school gymnasium for months and months. You lose your job, you lose your farm. A lot of those people were fishermen and farmers. You lose your income. You have no way to provide for yourself. You were just living your life, working hard, just like you always had, just like your parents did, and just like their parents before them did. And boom, all of a sudden you're living in a cardboard box on the gym floor of a stinking Tokyo school. And what are you going to do? I guess you got to go. A lot of these people, they probably went out and got work in Tokyo or those cities where they ended up. And how do the people of those cities feel about that? Keeping in mind that Japan is very, I don't know what the word is. They're very, I don't want to say territorial because it's all one country, but provincial. There's lots of provinces, lots of small, it's kind of a bunch of small governments united under one big government, I think, is the way I feel. But yeah, the government of Japan just doesn't have the resources to do this correctly. They should have had the ability to just have an entire apartment building or 2 or 3 Soviet bloc style, big, tall apartment buildings they could put people in the event that one of their over 100 nuclear reactors melted down for some odd reason. You've got I think Japan has over 100 nuclear reactors on their island. And they're literally in one of the tectonically most unstable locations on the planet. The Ring of Fire. It's the stupidest thing you could possibly imagine, putting over 100 reactors on that little island. The island isn't even the size. Colorado's bigger than all of Japan, for instance. Oregon's probably twice as big as all of Japan. Imagine in your state if you had over 100 nuclear reactors running with cooling towers and the whole thing. And the Japanese make it look pretty the Americans, with the help of the Japanese, make it look pretty. If you look at Fukushima, pre-accident, it was a lovely looking facility. It didn't look at all intimidating. You could barely see it. It blended in so well with the skyline. They designed those things so that you're not seeing them out of sight, out of mind. I did a Google Earth search on the roads around the power plant, trying to see where I could look over the horizon and see the cooling towers or something of the power plant. And the way they've got it set up, you literally cannot see it until you are right on it, literally right around the corner from the first parking lot of the complex, which, by the way, is huge. It's a huge place. You know, it's like a small city. That if I again encourage all my listeners, download Google Earth Pro and just have a look. It's much more efficient, I think, than the browser-based mapping softwares, and it's just better. It's just better. But yeah, you'll see for yourself that these people are good at hiding filth. So, you know, and part of the reason that you couldn't see the Fukushima Daiichi plant is because they decided to put it low. They literally scooped out a huge amount of the coastline, and so that they could get it closer to the water, lower. You know, they wanted it lower so that it would take less energy to pump the water up to the reactor cores, basically. It was all about the money. All about the money. You know, how can we, if we build it up in a safe level, then it's going to cost an extra $100,000 a year in electricity to pump water to the reactors. And instead of saying, well, is that safer? Yeah, okay, then do it. They were like, let's spend $1 billion scooping out the entire coastline so we can put this thing right down on the water. We can put the pumps and the emergency equipment right at sea level. Tell me that they didn't. Somebody, I don't know how you could call that a mistake. That's the same kind of mistake as the United States military somehow misreading the weather right before a nuclear test, causing thousands of people to get heavily radioactively contaminated, innocent people. You know, was that really a mistake, or was it that we need to find out what the effects of this bomb are going to be on humans? And how do you test for humans? We got sheep and goats and pigs and squirrels and rabbits and dogs and cats all all there so that we can test them. You know, they even sheared the sheep and applied salves and ointments to them in various patches and places so they could study the effectiveness of said ointments against a nuclear blast. And so why not? The perfect trifecta is animals, water, and people. So where do you get people? Well, we got these islanders, and they don't know any better. Hell, you know, if it would have been Europeans, and they would have smelled it immediately and gone, and this is not. They would have seen the blast and put two and two together and said, "This is fallout. Get out of here." Okay, the islanders were like, "It's snowing." They're running around in it. They're throwing it in the air. They're breathing it in. They're ignoring the obvious burnt metal smell that must have pervaded everywhere. It must have smelled like a. Have you ever burnt wires in a device? You know, that burnt plastic, electrical, maybe smell, and when an electrical appliance burns up, that's the kind of smell that's in the air after a nuclear blast. That and a metallic smell. And, well, those poor people. So here we are. It's 8:40. I'm surprised I've gotten this far through and done this well, to be honest with you. As for me in my life, I am, like I said, now in Oregon, and I am trying my best to get reestablished. Not the easiest task in the world, and I'm probably my own worst enemy there as well. So what I was looking for, let's look for Castle Bravo. What do we got? Not lots of pictures of nuclear bombs, and more glorification of the bomb. That's what I see when I search YouTube. I see glorification. Look how pretty, look how big, look how powerful. Not one, look how dirty. Let's say Castle Bravo victims. Nothing. Castle Bravo natives. Nothing. Yeah, I'm not finding anything. I'm looking. Castle Bravo island people. Do you see what's going on here? Nothing. I just get the same big bunches of pictures of nuclear bombs. And so for the world and for the people of the world, it's all about the flash and the bang. It's not about humanity and the people and the suffering and the damage that is caused, the unspeakable suffering and damage. For tomorrow's show, I may simulcast portions of that movie that I saw last night, if Lonnie will allow me to, because there are facts in there that are just horrifying, and the interviews with the people who survived are sad. They're just sad. It's like, but in the morning it snowed, and by that evening everybody was vomiting, throwing up, losing big patches of hair. I mean, they showed these babies with little 2-year-old kids that morning were running around playing, joyous, sickly, with blisters on their skins and big patches of hair gone already by that evening. 3 days later, probably they lost very many of those people. And the United States military was in there testing and measuring and analyzing and recording and getting all the data. Okay, radioactivity levels, fallout levels, disease levels, follow-up as to what are the long-term health effects. And so they know. And so they know exactly what this stuff does. And they victimized this culture of people, which is no longer the same thing, in order to do that. And we are complicit. If you're an American, you are complicit. I don't care how environmentally safe and sound and vegan and peaceful you think you are. Your tax money goes to this process, and it's an ongoing process. It's not something that happened in 1953 and then stopped. It's a process that's continuing on today. The United States government is continuing to destroy indigenous populations across the globe in a callous and unthinking way. And they have the resources to do this because we, the people, allow them to have the resources to do that. Think about the Pentagon losing, what was it, 1 trillion dollars. How do you lose $1 trillion? Think about that. How do you lose $1 trillion? I don't think it's possible to lose $1 trillion. I think that you can steal $1 trillion. But that's a pretty big 9-digit accounting error. So where's all that money going? Where is all the trillions of dollars in taxes that we're putting in going? How's it being utilized? And why do we allow it to happen like that? Or do we just not care? Is that it? Is it just that the people of the United States are now numb to the effects of our actions across the globe? Is it because we're selfish and we don't really care what happens to other people in the world? Or for that matter, future generations of Americans? Because as long as us and our families and our children are, quote unquote, safe and happy, that's all that really matters. You know, what happens to my great-great-great-grandchildren, if I have any, I don't know about. I'll never know about. They'll never even know who I am. That's the attitude. It's wrong. That's wrong think, I guess. And that's an Orwellian word in itself, but it is. That's just thinking wrong. We can't allow ourselves to be fooled and dissuaded into thinking wrong anymore. It's not acceptable, and it's not workable. And indeed, folks, it may be too late. It may be too late to change this up, what we're doing, how we're doing it. It may be that, like lemmings going over a cliff, I'm there, I'm next. Those 4 guys ahead, 3 guys ahead, 2 guys ahead, over the edge. Well, that went faster than I thought. You know, so are we going to allow ourselves to, like lemmings, be herded over the cliff? You know, or are we going to do at least a little something to put the brakes on, or take a right turn or a left turn, or just somehow avoid the cliff? Because it's there, and it's very real. You know, and it's not just, like I said earlier, it's not just this nuclear thing, but the nuclear thing is a huge part of it. You know, the chemical contamination that we're doing to our planet right now is enormous. The fertilizers that we pump into the water systems is enormous. You know, you want to know the real primary reason why, when I went to the coast, I'm not seeing any life. And I look up on Google Earth and I find, sure enough, that is a dead zone. Well, why is it a dead zone? And I look up the causes, and without fail, it is nitrate, phosphate poisoning from runoff. At least that's what they say it is. That's what they're blaming it on. And indeed, probably primarily that's what caused it. Nitrates and the phosphates cause algae bloom, which depletes oxygen, which makes it so other creatures can't live there. That's the nature of the beast. You know, do we need to use all of these literal tons and tons of chemical fertilizers? And where do you think those are coming from? Those are, a lot of them, a lot of the pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers that we use are actually derived from petroleum products. You know, so there's the petroleum. It's getting the air and the water, you know, and the oceans. So the whole there's the petrochemical thing, there's the vehicle exhaust thing, which is lower and better than it used to be, but we've got more and more and more and more vehicles, because each individual American, in our rush for the cliff, doesn't see that this is an issue. You know, we aren't collectively seeing that we need to take the bus. We aren't collectively seeing that we need to unplug things when we're not using them. We aren't collectively understanding the need to change direction and stop before we reach the edge of the cliff. Because we're there. We're there, folks. In the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to start to see catastrophic environmental changes. And I've heard more than one person say, smart people at that humanity won't even be here in another 8 to 10 years. That's how serious it is. Is that some scientists see that this is ultimately just gloom and doom. I mean, this is it. We've already pushed it too far. We are over the cliff. We're so stupid, we're falling to the rocks below and can't even see that coming until we hit the rocks. And then what? Is it inevitability? Is that it? Is it just an inevitability? You know, are we like a virus to this planet? You know, and much like a virus, left unchecked, our waste products will sicken the planet till it finally goes a fever and kills us off. Because that's what we do. Think about the human immune system. You get influenza or some other viral infection going on, you know, and you get sicker and you get sicker, and then you get a fever. And the fever itself, actually, and your body starts producing massive amounts of white blood cells to fight against the virus. And so it's not the virus itself that is making you sick. It is the waste products that the virus is creating. It's poop, if you will, that are making your system sick, for the most part with viruses. And so what happens is we throw a fever, and that kills off the virus. It takes it above the temperature level where it's able to sustain itself. And it dies back and dies back and dies back until its waste products are no longer an issue. And also by that time, the immune system, our immune system, is able to get on top of it and stay on top of it and control it and combat it so it doesn't ever again get to that point, but it still can. Because, you know, viruses, they're tricky. They mutate. They take on yet another form that we don't recognize, and we go through the whole process again. So is the Earth the same? Is the Earth really a living organism? Are we really a virus that is inhabiting that organism, making it sick? The similarities are profoundly striking to me, because indeed the Earth is, because of the waste products, throwing a fever. And it will get hot and hotter and hotter until it kills enough of us off to where our waste products aren't an issue anymore. It may get to the point where we just can't survive anymore as a species. It may get to the point where humanity just goes extinct. It's possible. You know, don't think that we can't be extinctified, because we absolutely can. It is, I mean, extinction has happened to, I think, 99% of all species that have ever existed on this planet. 99% of everything that ever evolved on Earth is now non-existent, doesn't exist anymore, or it mutated into a new thing. So don't think we're immune to that, folks, because we aren't. So what's the solution? What is the solution? Don't glorify nuclear weapons, don't glorify nuclear power, don't glorify the crap that they want us to glorify. Don't do it. Here's a documentary, Castle Bravo documentary. The deadly miscalculation at Castle Bravo. Dry fuel thermonuclear device. Just really ugly. I mean, the device was probably about the size of a pickup truck. You know, and yielded enough energy to where it actually scared a bunch of people. They were like, we cannot go any bigger than that because we may literally ignite the atmosphere. That's what they thought. You know, the mushroom cloud went so high, it went almost out of the atmosphere of the planet. It almost punched a hole in the atmosphere of the planet. They probably did for a minute. Created a vacuum in that one little zone instantaneously. as it ionized all the oxygen, all the air molecules in that area. A huge amount of energy, like having a sun on the surface. So stupid. Just such a silly, stupid thing to do. Sorry, I had to wet my whistle a little bit, folks. So it's 8:55. We got 5 minutes left. So in that 5 minutes, I'd like to give some shouts out to some people. First shout out, it's got to go to ucy.tv and Jules, who works tirelessly every day, day in, day out, to bring you guys all the varied and interesting programs that occur on this station. As well, I'd like to give a shout out to Libby Halevi. She is fantastic and awesome and a true fighter against this process. I recommend everybody go and check out Nuclear Hot Seat. Go help her out. Libby Halevi does her show and everything on minimal, and I know this, minimal resources. She deserves so much more than she gets for all the hard work she does. So I encourage everyone to go to her website, nuclearhotseat.com, and hit the contribute button as well. Go to ucy.tv's website, hit the contribute button. Libby always says that for the price of a cup of coffee and a good tip to the barista, you can help support the programs that you're hearing. And without you, I can still do my show because I'm talking via Skype on a cell phone. Okay. But a lot of these people, they do productions. Libby does productions. She does an hour-long show every week that is concise and edited and well put together. And that costs money. It costs production time. It costs equipment. It's not free. And so please help her out. As well, Lonnie Clark, my co-host, is another tireless fighter against not just the nuclear, but many other things that are destroying our planet as well. She's a tireless worker, a tireless fighter. She as well has Nuts for Art at YouTube, NUTZ for Art. I suggest you guys check her out and, give her a thumbs up or two on her videos, subscribe to her channel. I am Jerome, and I call myself the Sane Environmentalist, mostly because I'm trying to move through this in a scientific way and not be a gloom and doomer, although the more I get into it, the harder it is to not be a gloomer and doomer. I find myself just wanting to scream and yell at people to try to get them to wake up, but nobody seems to want to wake up. The lemmings are going over the cliff in a rapid fashion. And only the ones farther back are going to be able to see the edge and understand what's going on and make a course correction in time to where they don't get overwhelmed by the push from all the other lemmings. So it's up to us. It really is. It's up to us what we want to do with this.